What's up, horror community? I'm Stock, and in today's video, we are going to be ranking all of my Ghostface killers from my least favorite to my favorite. And obviously, I've talked about it in the past. This is one of my favorite film franchises of all time. It's my second favorite horror franchise of all time. So I always love talking about Scream, but what is triggering me to make this video right now is, as everybody knows in the horror community, we have a new Scream film coming out in March. In a few months, it'll be here before we know it. We're already pretty much done with January, so that new movie will be here before we know it. It's got so much hype to it. It's got a lot of talk of like returning old Ghostface killers. It has a lot of talk of who it could be and like what kind of cult they could form with all these Ghostface killers and how they tribute the other ones in the past. So that is what motivated me to make this ranking video. It's a video I wanted to do for a long time that I just haven't done yet. So let's dive into this. I'm going to be ranking every single Ghostface killer in the movie franchise. I'm not counting the show. I've actually never seen the Scream show, so that's another good idea. Maybe I'll start that soon and like watch the Scream show. I know it's much different than the film franchise, but I gotta do that. But this video is all of the Ghostface killers in all of the films, all 5 Scream films. So there is 9 Scream killers in total for all 5 movies. So we're going to break that down from ranking in at number 9. And at the end of the day, I don't hate any of these killers because I love Scream so much. So I will say that now. There's not a single killer I hate. There's just ones that are just much lower tier. So let's talk about it. Number 9 is Charlie from Scream 4. So the first time I watched Scream 4, I didn't care about him at all, and then like the second time I rewatched it, I liked him more. I thought he played his role pretty well, but at the same time, he was like the secondary killer that I feel like was very forgettable, and he's still forgettable. I just don't think he really brings much to that movie. I like aspects of him though. I do like certain things, like his connection with Kirby, or like his tributes to like Stu, like he wants to be like Stu, or like how he wants to be like Randy at the same time. I like that stuff, but just in the grand scheme of things, I just feel like him, compared to like any other Scream killer in the film franchise, he's just the weakest. I just feel like he's the weakest. Like I said, he did get higher for me after the rewatch, and maybe he'll get higher for me once I rewatch Scream 4 again and again and again. But as of right now, I just feel like he's last place. He is last place for now. Not to mention, he gets very, very outshined by the other killer in Scream 4. And I get it. He is the secondary killer. So, of course, like, he's gonna get outshined, outclassed by the main killer in the movie. But, like, you could have, like, held your own more. Like, because you look at other examples of the secondary killer in the other movies, and they did a much better job at, like, standing out more. So I just feel like Charlie didn't do that as well. Ranking in at number 8, this is gonna be a trigger, I know it is. He's actually Roman from Scream 3. So Roman has cool things about him. Like, of course, I'm always gonna talk about stuff I like about them as well as things I don't. The cool things he has is I really, really like how he is a single killer. He is the only single killer you see throughout all 5 movies. In 6, it doesn't look like it's a single killer either, but I mean, maybe it could be. You never know with Scream. But he is, as of right now, the only single killer. So massive points for that. Really like that. I really like his thing with Ghostface behind the mask. I really like the voice changing stuff. I thought that was very unique. I thought that really spiced things up a lot. So I like those things a lot. But like him as a character, him as that director throughout the film, I didn't really like it. I didn't really get behind it that much. Once again, he's very forgettable in a lot of ways for me personally. Like, I never think of him when I'm thinking of Scream too often, just for like those main points I just said about being the only single killer and stuff. But besides those big things, like him as the character, him as the director, it's just doesn't stand out to me. And then that's not only it, it's also the ending of the film, his reveal. Yes, he has a pretty awesome fight with Sydney, but like the whole thing of him being the brother and stuff, I personally did not buy that. Like, I personally did not eat that up. It didn't feel like he was her brother, and I still feel that way after several rewatches of Scream 3. I don't believe that. Like, I just don't get that connection of like a family connection, especially a brother. And then especially like his backstory of like how he set up Billy and Stu to do what they did. It's just, I just don't really care for like any of that story. Fight's awesome. The fight itself is awesome for Sydney and stuff like that. But whole family ties don't really like. I think Jill, I gotta name drop all their killers. I'm trying to wait on that. But I think Jill in Scream 4 as the family tie with Sydney was like 10 million times better than the family tie she had with Roman in 3. So those are some quick things. That is why Roman is my number 8 on my list. So with those two bottom ones out of the way, we are now at the stage where these are all killers that I really, really like. Those two ones, I have aspects about them that I do really like, but it's like aspects. Everyone from like 7 up are just killers that I thought were really good. So someone's got to rank at number 7, and that person is from Scream 5, and it is Amber from Scream 5. So I really like her. I see like criticism on her that was like she wasn't that good, she's not memorable. She could have been so much more, but even though she wasn't always on screen a lot and stuff like that, I thought when she was, it meant something. And I really like how throughout it she's like trying to be there for Tara, trying to be her best friend and stuff like that, which was good. But what I really like about her, what I give her credit about, is like the reveal at the end. I think she did such a good job in the final act reveal of going nuts. She gave me a lot of like vibes of Stu from the first one, and she tributed that really well, especially in Stu's house. So like that setting and stuff, like with that, I really liked a lot. So like for her to be number 7 and above those two, I gotta say the main reason why is the ending and her reveal and how nuts she goes and her insults and stuff that she's saying to Gail and Sydney. All spot on stuff, and like all those insults make it so like relieving that when they kill her, when they shoot her off and she goes on fire and stuff, it's crazy. But yeah, like that final act is just very top tier. Like it is so well done, and even though she isn't in it the most throughout the film, you still get such an awesome payoff. So that is why she's my number 7. And people who criticize her for killing Dewey and her being small and stuff like that, I don't care, because once you're in that Ghostface costume, you are Ghostface. You have some type of extra superpower when you have that thing on, okay? So Dewey died from Ghostface. He died from a Ghostface killer. Like, I don't care. Like, and the fact that it is Amber, like, that's massive credits for her once again for ranking in at number 7 for me, because she killed off Dewey, who is my favorite character in the franchise. So I gotta give you props on that. And she said it was an honor to kill him, so props again for that. But she is my number 7. It's getting harder and harder throughout this ranking to pick who I'm gonna go with next, but with some debate, and it could change on any given day. But as of right now, number 6 is Mrs. Loomis from Scream 2. And I've always really liked her a lot. I think her coming in the second one as Billy's mom, like fresh off that Scream 1 story, was really cool. And she has such a clear motive of why she's gonna attack Sydney and her friends again after the first killing. Such a clear motive. Like the only motive she needed was, oh hey, you killed my son, like I don't care if my son was nuts, regardless, you killed my son, I'm coming out for vengeance. And that's all she needed. And to see her as the killer, it just made perfect sense. And as for her throughout the movie as the other reporter, her kind of annoying Gail throughout the movie, I like that a lot too, because that added to Gail's character changing a lot from the first one. Having that character like Mrs. Loomis with Gail throughout the movie gave a lot of character growth to Gail, which is also my favorite version of Gail is Scream 2. So she's a big part of that. Leading up to the ending, she's pretty, you don't really expect her to be the killer either throughout it, which was nice. And then the final act is good too, but I don't want to say too much. I just think, I'm gonna say it anyway because this is the ranking. So I just think on the negative thing, she gets outclassed by the secondary killer in Scream 2. I think she is the main role, but she gets so outclassed by the second person. So I can't put her higher on my list, but she is number 6 for a lot of good reasons. Here we are at the top 5 Ghostface killers, and ranking in at number 5 is Richie from Scream 5. So once again, Scream 5 like supplied me with really good new killers, and like at first it was like that initial reaction that is, oh, you know, it's not a returning character, it's not like the same magic as the early ones, this, that, and the other. But I liked him from my first watch, and then I've grown to like him so much more throughout my rewatches of Scream 5, because I've rewatched it several times over, and I've liked him more each time. I thought he did a really good job at being the boyfriend throughout the movie, and I really like his little things like watching the stabs and stuff like that, and feeling trustworthy. I also like how he kind of had an approach of, it's obvious, but maybe it's too obvious that it's not him, kind of like Billy from the original. But I personally, I don't think I thought it was him when I first watched Scream 5. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it was so obvious and stuff like that, but I don't think I knew that. He also goes like so nuts after reveal with Amber, and like they both with each other contrast so well together. I think it's like the most magic between two Ghostface killers that we've seen since Scream 1. Like when it comes to both of them and their chemistry together, I think Richie and Amber had the best chemistry in any of the Scream movies besides the original. So that is massive props there. And like I said earlier, that location of being in Stu's house was like perfect for that to come together and be like the second most magical for me personally. So I credit Richie a lot. He's in my top 5, and maybe he'll continue to grow, because every time I rewatch it, I just tend to like him even more. And funny thing, I've watched the Boys since seeing Scream, because I saw Scream first and then I watched The Boys recently, and that actor Jack Quaid is in that as like the super good-hearted person. So it was so weird to see that after seeing Scream 5 and how evil he is in the final act, and then seeing him in The Boys. It's just great stuff, and it shows how good of an actor he is. Ranking in at number 4. In a lot of people's eyes, this is the strongest Ghostface, but is at my number 4, and it is Jill from Scream 4. So there is nothing I could say negative about this killer character at all. She did the family tie thing with Sydney so well, and I think she was one of the most unpredictable killers in reveal. With that being said, her reveal at the end, I talked about like how Amber and Richie were crazy. Like Jill's reveal at the end is nuts. Like it is so crazy. Like you feel how determined she was to make her motive happen, and the things she would go through to make it happen. And she was so freaking psychotic. Like you felt that, and you felt how she would go to any type of extent to achieve what she wanted to achieve. But what I'm talking about here is just like that scene where she just beats the hell out of herself to frame herself as the good guy, and she just goes nuts, like just freaking slams herself through tables, freaking rips her hair out, claws at herself, all this nuts things, which is so like memorable and eye-opening. And then that even transitions into the hospital at the end, and that tension in the whole scene at the hospital with Gail, Dewey, Sydney, and Jill, and that tension of how nuts she is in that final act up to her death in that, like that is nuts. Like that is very impressive, like to see how crazy you are. Easily one of the most psychotic Ghostface killers ever. But yeah, did the family tie thing with Sydney really well, which I credit massively. I love how she turned on Charlie right away and just didn't even care. I love how she freaking just shot her boyfriend without second guessing anything, and everything about her, I just really love. That's why she's my number 4. Ranking in at number 3, the most underrated Ghostface killer of all time. And I truly believe that. Mickey from Scream 2. So this character is fantastic. I wanna throw on the barn burner, but I'm trying to save that for the final 2 slots. Nah, I gotta hit it anyways. You know what? Mickey from Scream 2, I'm about to hit you with the barn burner of a performance, because your performance was a barn burner. I love this character a lot. I love this killer so much from what he does in Scream 2, and it helps because I love Scream 2 so much. But the first time I saw this, initially, I'm gonna be honest, I was so hot off Scream 1 seeing it for the first time, and like how much I loved those two killers, that when I saw Scream 2, I instantly was just like, it doesn't live up to the hype as the first one. But from rewatching it like over and over and seeing how much I love Scream 2, I've grown such a massive appreciation for Mickey and such a high tier love, and that's why he's in my top three Ghostface killers. I would love to see if anyone else has him so high tier, but I just love him. Like, I just think he's great. Like, even though, once again, I said this about a character like Amber in earlier in this video, but yes, Mickey doesn't have the most screen time throughout the movie of Scream 2, but when he's on screen, even if it's subtle little details, you gotta notice, like, he's always doing something important that leads up to his final reveal in the ending. He's always doing little stuff, like whether it's like recording or with his camera, or he's in the cafeteria with his best friend Derek and he's like clapping and cheering him on and stuff like that. Or if he's like next to Sydney saying, oh, we're here for you, when Derek was in the hospital and she was getting flashbacks of her boyfriend being the killer and kind of thinking that Derek might be the killer, like he was saying he was there for her. All those little things, little details throughout the movie was fantastic. Like, not a wasted moment with that character. And then we got to talk about the reveal. Absolutely fantastic. Another super psychotic killer in reveal. Like, you felt it through the screen. So freaking good. He has so many things that I remember and I quote all the time, and he's just so much fun to watch in that reveal. I also just love him so much because of the fact that I feel like he's underrated and underappreciated and not talked about as much as he should be. Also, I love how he outshines the main Ghostface killer, because that is so hard to do, and he does that so well. I love how he just plays mind games with Sydney in that final reveal, how he literally kills her innocent boyfriend right in front of her face, who was supposed to be his best friend throughout the movie. Just kills him without even caring, and just everything leading up to his death, him being the killer that hops up at the end and getting shot one last time. Mickey is a GOAT. He's a legend. He is a barn burner for a fact, and I hope people see the beauty in him because he is super underrated and he is a GOAT. So we're at the top two. We are at the top two. It is the most popular choices. I usually don't like to be the person who chooses like the most popular things, but naturally when it comes to Scream, these two guys, these two killers, they're my guys, they're my choices, but one's got to be over the other. I gotta say, ranking in number 2 is Billy from Scream 1. So Billy is the perfect Ghostface killer. He is the original. He is the one who set up all of this Ghostfaces after. He is a massive piece of the puzzle of why Ghostface and why Scream became such a success, and is still having new films in 2023 after the first one was in 1996. He's a key reason for that, and he does the thing of being so obvious in ways that it's no way it's him, and then relieving that it is him in the end. So he is the king of that, and just his character work throughout the film I love so much. Like, he is just as big of a character of any of the good characters throughout Scream 1. He is just as important as anybody you see in that. And I'm sure that he wasn't, as much as I said as he's the obvious thing, which he does have, I'm sure when people first saw Scream, like they didn't know it was him, especially when they did the whole fake killing thing. Like, I really wonder if people who saw Scream in 96 thought he was the killer. I'm really curious to know that. But he's the perfect killer. Like, there's definitely nothing bad I could say about him. I think he's so great. I literally met him last year in 2021, and I had him sign this right here, this picture. And he even wrote, "We all go a little mad sometimes" on it. He was really cool to meet. But yeah, Billy's he's the perfect killer. He really is. He does so well with leading Stu in the ending, and the ending in general. God, I love the ending. Like, that's what hooked me on Scream so much, was the ending reveal in Scream 1. But that's like, it's both of them who made it so magical. Billy and Stu, and their chemistry is like untouched. Like, to me, they're in a different league than anybody else in Scream, any other killers in Scream. Like Billy and Stu, like those guys together, like it was pure magic on the screen. And just the way they bounced off each other were just so freaking well done. But he's my number 2. And now let's go into my number 1, which is obvious at this point. Let's talk about him. Ranking in at number 1 is Stu from Scream 1. And I gotta do it. Because I love this guy so much. He's fantastic. And he's got a lot of talk about Scream 6. So, Stu, Matthew Lillard from Scream 1. I'm about to hit you with the barn burner of a performance. Because your performance was a barn burner. Stu is fantastic. Like, there is nobody better than him as a Ghostface killer, in my opinion. I respect people choosing Billy over him, absolutely. But nobody, for me personally, beats Stu. I already loved him from, like, the Scooby-Doo films as Shaggy. So when I first saw Scream, like a few years back, I was like, oh crap, like Shaggy's in this movie. I generally did not know he was the killer. So it was a very fun experience. And he was just so goofy and funny throughout the movie and stuff like that. I just loved watching every time he was on the screen. And I just genuinely, like I said, did not think he was the killer. So leading up to the ending and him in reveal, keeping that goofiness he had all movie and put that in with the reveal, it was just magic. He has the most quotable freaking lines in all of Scream for me, and without him in that final act, I don't think it would have been as nearly as memorable as it is. Talking about the second killer in it outshining the first, he does that in ways, but I think Billy holds his own. But it's tough. I think he still does outclass him in ways. That hurts to say because I love them both so much. But yeah, Stu is just he's a giant reason of why I love Scream so much. He's such a key component in why I love it so much, and why I've rewatched that final act so many times. Like everybody after in Scream 1, every other killer just tried to be those two, because those two were just perfect. They are Scream. And the fact that he's still talked about for Scream 6 and people wanting him to return is freaking awesome. And it's so deserved. And I know the TV could have killed him, but you never know. You never know. He could survive with some scarring on his face with a beat up mask. That would be freaking awesome. I'm not going to get my hopes up all the way because I doubt it, but it'd be freaking awesome. Stu is the GOAT. He is my number 1, and he is my number 1 forever. Thank you guys for watching this video. It was a lot of fun to talk about my favorite Ghostface killers. Some of those lower tiered ones could change on any given day, but my top tier ones are set for life. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll see you next time. We'll talk about Scream 6 soon, but I'll see you next time. Hard 31st. Out.